Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action. Why neurodivergent professionals are burning out even in the good jobs. And here is what you can do about it. I'm Dianne here at Someone Gets Me, and today we're talking about being a neurodivergent professional in the world and how easy it is to burn out, even in the good jobs, even in the ones you love. Now, I've experienced this very scenario more than once in my career. When I was younger, I blamed me. I thought that I was the one that was the problem. And what I've learned is that there are certain hallmark signs of a neurodivergent person that I didn't even know I was neurodivergent then, that really set us up to burn out, even in jobs we love, even in situations that are so exciting for us. And I want to talk about that. So, being burned out for a neurodivergent person is not about just like collapsing on the couch or going so fast and then dropping, though that can happen. What really happens in the good jobs and in the things that you really love is you become kind of the default word. In fact, I remember saying that when I was younger, before I knew that I had ADHD, right? That I'd go, why am I the default word? Well, that's because you're competent. And because you're competent, your confidence is higher. So therefore, no matter what the real leadership is in the job situation, people go to you. People go to you. You become the default word. Here, help me with this, help me with that, whether it's in your job or not in your job. And because you're a kind, giving, caring person, you do what you can to offer that assistance. So over time, you end up becoming depleted. And so it's a gradual kind of exhaustion that eventually leads to like this heaviness in your chest. In fact, I was just talking to one of my people just this week about that heaviness and that kind of weight that happens with chronic depletion over time because you are neurodivergent and competent and do things very well. Now, you might be an organizer type. I have a lot of people in my world that are the organizers, right? They plan everything, they organize, they do research like that. In fact, I have a couple friends of mine that I know if I mention a certain thing, anything, they will immediately do the research. And so I think it is so amazing. Like when I was in Florida recently, speaking to some of my friends about planning my September trip down. And I said, well, I need to find out when the University of Florida Gator home games are so that then I can make sure that my travel coincides with that, either to go to a game or to miss the traffic from a game. And I hadn't decided which one yet. Well, the very next day, I get a text message with what? All the home games in the month of September for the University of Florida Gator football team. Now, I could look up that same information, and I was going to when I needed it. But my neurodivergent friend, who, by the way, doesn't even realize he's neurodivergent, and if he does, he doesn't say it, did the homework for me. So we do those things for others, and it can burn us out if we're not careful. And so what happens when we get burned out? We get irritated. We often get defiant. We act in ways that we're not proud of because we're done. You know, I used to say it's like the tilt on the old school pinball machines. I've tilted. I'm done. I'm cooked. There's no more in here for me, you, or anyone else. And so we get depleted and we burn out because of that constant need and request of our time and effort and energy. Because see, for a neurodivergent person, rest is not the same as going home and taking a nap. Like, other people can do that and then they wake up and refresh. But a neurodivergent person, it's not quite that simple. In order for us to feel rested, we need to have a period of time where there's no demands on us, where we're not having to worry about what's for dinner. We're not having to worry about who's doing what or what's going on or a deadline on a work project, where there's no outside demand and we can be. And that's kind of hard sometimes when you're neurodivergent and you're a planner and you're taking care of things and you're making sure things work because it comes naturally to you. So there's a beautiful balance in this, right? Where, and I kind of see it more as like a dance. It's a beautiful dance of what are we doing that's productive and profitable and serving and giving from our overflow? What are we doing? And how are we caring for ourselves with time where there's no demand on us so that we don't burn out, even in jobs we love? I have several clients of mine right now, who have jobs and work that they love, love, love. They wouldn't trade it for anything. But yet they're having some of these signs of burnout with like the heaviness and the exhaustion and the lack of motivation or creativity. And that's because of over time, their system has become gradually depleted, whether it's from work or personal things, or they're just stuck in this pattern that has not given them a chance to recalibrate and refresh and fill up their cup, so to speak. And I think that happens more than we realize. And so neurodivergent people can burn out quickly and feel kind of yucky and flat. You know, you're burned out if you feel flat. That's different than depression or anhedonia, which is the lack of joy. When you feel flat, like there's nothing, that's burnout. That's a sign that your system has slowly been depleted over time and is not happy at all with you. And it's time to realize you're not a machine. You're a human being, not a human doing. And so it's really important to have time where you're not expected to do anything. And that's a little hard sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, it is. I'm sure it is. So it's this mismatch and unalignment. That's the issue, right? Is we're in a world that wants those of us who are neurodivergent, who can think fast, problem solve, put things together, understand things before others, all of those characteristics that make us amazing workers and employees and family members and friends and give us that beautiful, rich life. It's those things that especially corporations seek. But what's hidden is the fact that a big company, a corporation, and sometimes others will suck that dry if you don't have good boundaries. They will take advantage of that, knowingly or unknowingly. This isn't about blame. This is about being aware. This is about understanding that you can get sucked dry and not even know it's happening until it's flatline in there. I've had it happen to me where I was so into what I was doing and I was creating a new substance abuse treatment program and I was on it, and it wasn't that big of a company, but it was fairly good size. And I was putting all these things together and we were getting media attention and great things were happening. And then I woke up and all of a sudden I started feeling more and more heavy. And I started asking myself, how come I don't feel so excited about the very thing I created that I love so much? Well, it was because of all the extra other demands that were also pulling from me. And there was very little time for me to have nothing to do. And so I ended up inadvertently finding myself in this burnout phase. Even though I was taking care of myself on the outside things, I was eating right and I was exercising and I was doing all those things. Well, where was the downtime? Where was the quiet time with no demands? It was very, very little. And that is what caused the burnout more than doing things. Because if you're like me, we can get things done a lot faster than a lot of other people. So we can make more ground on whatever the project is, especially if we're a visionary and we're creating things. And where is your creative rest? Where is your downtime? Where is your time where there's nothing expected of you? Because see, when we're always giving and solving problems and planning and putting together, and we love our job, without that quiet rest downtime, we become ineffective over time and we pay a physical price. We can get depressed or have anxiety or our muscles start hurting. I know somebody who's got so much pain in her shoulder. She's always massaging them and has one of those hard balls and goes to get physical therapy. And one day I even said, maybe she's not a client, so she wasn't as receptive to what I was saying. But I said, maybe there are way too many demands on you and you haven't given yourself enough time for you. Just maybe. And I got poo-pooed, and that was, whatever. And then a few weeks later, it was, I think I'm doing too much. It's like, okay, well, it is true that happens. If you have a lot of demands in lots of arenas, they add up. A demand in family life, a demand in personal life, a demand for your health, a demand for work, a demand from friends, even if they're all wonderful and good, great demands, things that you want to do. If you don't have time for you, those things will eventually deplete your energy. And pretty soon you'll feel heavy. You'll have tense muscles. You'll be irritable. You won't be smiling like you usually do. You'll find yourself not enjoying life, maybe. You could say it that way, or feeling depressed, or even maybe anxious. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Well, I can tell you, you're depleted. We live in a society, in a culture, in a world that wants to exploit all of the great goodness out of all of us, knowingly or unknowingly. So it's our responsibility to set the inner boundaries and take care of ourselves first. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So if you're feeling that heaviness in your chest, or you're feeling that anxiety, or you're feeling any of these things I'm talking about, then you're either burned out or headed that way. And that misalignment and that separation from who you are and taking care of yourself as a good steward needs to get rectified and corrected. If you're not sure how to do it, check the show notes for a get to know you call, and I'm happy to have a free call with you and get you started. Because what matters most to me is that you are happy and healthy, and you're not walking around feeling burned out and flat. It's no fun. So make a get to know you call with me. I'm happy to do whatever I can to point you in the right direction, because it matters to me that those of us who are neurodivergent are happy and healthy, and that we're using our amazing gifts that we were given for the betterment of ourselves and others. And we can't do that if we're burned out and burned up. I hope this episode of Someone Gets Me has been helpful to you and reminds you to take care of yourself. Until the next episode, remember to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine, and remind yourself that you are beautiful, you are worthy, you are capable, and you are lovable. So care for yourself with the same nurturing grace you would a newborn baby or your best friend. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne saying, be well.
Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.